Welcome everyone to Digital Leadership Podcast. We're live on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Small disclaimer, we have a known issue with technology. Welcome to a world of product. We're used to that, but we have, I don't know how to say that, a solution that is a fixed problem. So we may lose Andrea during our discussion, but she will come back. So
I will return. I'll be back.
So, Andrea, welcome to the Digital Leadership Podcast. I'm super excited to have you here for multiple reasons. First is on my desk, I have your book that is there.
Yay.
And we're going to talk about it, certainly. It's pretty sure we're going to... So, a product momentum gap, bringing together product strategy and customer value. So, you did this book with Dave Martin, and we're going to talk about it. But before we do all of that, I'd like to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. And hey, everybody. Again, apologies if I drop off. My computer seems to not like Chrome today. So I seem to drop in and out every 10 minutes or so, but hopefully it's going to remain stable through this. So I'm Andrea. I'm a PMM advisor, now author, which is just wild. I never thought I would be able to say I'm a published author, but I am. So that's crazy and really exciting. And yeah, I guess today we're going to talk a little bit about the book and about product marketing.
Exactly. And so we're going to go through that. We met, some time ago. On Twitter, I followed you.
The product sphere.
The product sphere on Twitter. Yeah. I was following you also. I think we must have met in London, but pretty sure of it. We must have shared the same space.
We lived in Quebec, oddly enough.
And possibly in Quebec, yeah. So when we had a discussion a few weeks ago with Andrea, we noticed that we have a shared history. We spend time in Canada, approximately. I don't think it was at the same time. Yeah,
at the same time. Yeah.
So we may have met each other, and we don't know.
It's true. Same circles, same places.
So since we talk about history, so tell us a bit about yourself. What are you doing? You talked about product marketing. We say we're going to talk about product marketing and selling value. What is your role? What is product marketing, I will say?
Well, that's a big question. So I guess a little bit about my background first is I actually started in technical support. I used to work at Apple many years ago, and then pivoted into technical support. And then one day I happened to ask why, which was a very important question. And my CEO at the time said, make decisions, because nobody had ever asked him why. So I became a product manager, and from there, I kind of slowly pivoted towards what is now called product marketing. So product marketing is a very strategic role. I see it as a strategic partner to products, and it's really about being able to communicate and sell value. So taking everything from product and then communicating that both internally to your team and externally to customers, leads, whoever it may be.
And since you talk about selling value, how do you make the difference with sales? Because you say it's about selling value.
Yes. So a product marketer can fit either within a sales motion or within a PLG motion. And what it's really doing is enabling either the sales team or enabling the product-led motion to be able to present that value, right? So your sales team members are still going to need help understanding who they're talking to, how to talk to them, learn about competitors, learn about, how to sell those value benefits, what they need to talk about, all those differentiators. And that comes directly from product marketing. So product marketing creates all those assets, and then sales goes and they do their magic. And within a product-led function, it's fairly similar. So what we're doing really is communicating that value throughout the customer journey and through that life cycle.
Okay. And you had, I saw on your Twitter that you shared, because lately with what happened at Airbnb, we heard back about the PMM function.
Everybody freaked out.
Product manager are now useless. That was the thing. We fire everyone. We're going to stay just with designers. What is PMM and how is it different from PM?
It's a great question. So as I said initially, they're strategic partners, right? In the absence of a product marketer, the product manager takes on a lot of those functions. And I recently put up a Twitter a little Venn diagram, because you know I love a good Venn diagram. And that particular Venn diagram was a little bit more focused on a sales motion. And it does mention things like sales enablement and partner training and all of those things. But there is this overlap, and this overlap really revolves around what I would call anything related to user value. So the product roadmap is a really big part of that. And it doesn't mean that the product marketer is making decisions, but the product marketer can help the product manager position that roadmap a little bit better, especially when you're creating it for different audiences. But also having an input and bringing in that commercial aspect. So in terms of what happened with Airbnb, no need to freak out, by the way. Yes, apologies. And just sort of really good second too. I was talking about Airbnb. So yeah, no need to panic. But I think that decision is actually really great, because what it's empowering product managers to really do is have a little bit more of commercial focus, which I think, unpopular opinion, but hear me out, I think more product managers need to think about commercial impact and commercial focus a little bit more. So it's not just, oh, here's how I talk about my product, but it is, how is this decision impacting sales? How is it impacting product-led growth? How is it impacting our users? Do we know who we're building things for? And those are really the questions that a product marketer is going to have, right? So who is this for? How do we measure success? How does this impact sales? How do I sell this? What am I selling? These are the things that a product marketer is going to have questions and is going to need to answer that. So there's really just a really great synergy between a product manager and a product marketer. And especially as companies are scaling, you're going to need that extra person. And like I said, it's really a strategic partner that you have. It's not anyone that is going to take your job or anyone that is purely marketing. I heard you say that you have to be a bit patient, please. I need to be bit patient.
It's okay.
I need to be a bit patient. But as I was saying, it's nothing to fear. It's a strategic partner that you have. It's someone that's going to help you with your job. And like I always tell every product manager that I work with is, I am here to make you look good, because I need to help you communicate all those things. So I'm your PR manager.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Right?
So the PM,
I am your PR manager.
you will say that the PM is the PR manager for the product
manager. The product team. Yeah, for the product team. I make everything you do look amazing. Not that it isn't, but somebody needs to talk about it. And if you put out a feature and nobody uses it, is it actually creating value? Well, no, right? It doesn't create value until somebody uses it. And who's going to tell everybody to use it? The product marketing team.
Okay. And so before we dive in on the responsibility, because I want to see the separation between the two, because a lot of people might ask the question, what is the difference between the two, right? When do you see it's the time to add a product marketer inside the team?
I would say when either marketing or product can no longer manage those things. So like I said, in the absence of a product marketer, some of those things will go to marketing and sales, some of those things will go to product. But as you scale, you need to start giving those responsibilities and sharing those responsibilities with others. And that's when I think that split comes. So it isn't, I've seen, product managers and startups, and they don't necessarily need a product marketer at that point, because the product manager can manage a lot of those things. I would say once you start getting a little bit bigger and start getting customer traction, and you need to start communicating that value a little bit more explicitly, that's when a product marketer can come in.
Okay. And I will say on a daily basis or weekly basis, I don't like daily because generally it changes too much, but on a weekly basis, what are the responsibilities of a product marketer? And how, I will say after that, but.
There are a lot. It would be anything from, running webinars, creating educational content, working with CS and support to make sure that, they understand, and sales as well, they understand the features thoroughly and are being trained thoroughly, talking to customers, running research. There's also, depending on the focus, they could also be running a lot of A/B testing. Especially on landing pages. I have actually worked with performance marketers that have taken that off my plate. So they will specifically do the A/B testing on public campaigns, but I'm still highly involved. So I will make sure that they're talking about all the right things, but they
Yeah.
do the active, testing. And then as a group, we come back together and we analyze and discuss and, pivot as needed. What else? Working with community, especially in a product-led growth environment, making sure that you're empowering the community wherever that community is. I have a bit of a cringe moment when I say community, because people often think of community as just one space. But community can be several channels, right? You have a community on Twitter, you have a separate community on LinkedIn. Those are different communities, but you're empowering your followers to then communicate with you, and you're sharing things in different ways. It's a really varied role. I particularly really enjoy creating a lot of the educational content, because that educational content can then be fed through different channels. So you can feed educational content that will activate and retain users. You can create educational content that will possibly even prevent churn. So it's really about understanding the customer journey and looking at those different steps and going, okay, how do we focus on top of the funnel? How do we convert those people? How do we then provide them value as they're engaging and using the platform? And then how do we retain them over time, right? How do we create that support and that community for them so that they feel like they have that support in order to be successful?
And in that sense, because, like the role has evolved a lot also through the years. I work in a company where product marketer were focusing mainly on market research.
Yeah.
Right. And I think like a lot of people are seeing product marketing like an evolution of marketing. There is also that is done. How do you make the difference between what is marketing, what is product marketing, I will say, in a company? What is the differences for you?
That's a great question. I would say, you know what, I'm going to use an example that somebody used with me, which I love. So think of like a football game, right? And you've
Okay.
got the coach, and the coach is the product team, right? They're the strategy. Product marketing is the quarterback. You have this ball and you've got the strategy that you have to play out, but you have to pass the ball to someone. And the person that you're passing the ball to, that's the marketing team. That's the sales team. That's a success team. So you're creating this different place to pass on the ball for that play to be completed. And those are the different teams that you're passing the ball to. So again, product marketing. So product marketing makes sure that they take everything that the product team is working on, all that strategic stuff, all those features that have been built by, engineering and product. And then we lay out this narrative, this story about value. And then we pass that on to all of our different teams. And we pass that on in a variety of different ways. So it could be by creating onboarding emails, for example, if you're in a PLG motion. It could be by creating sales enablement documents. It could be by creating competitor pages. It could be by assisting in campaigns. So there's a variety of different ways that those plays can be, done. But the product marketer is there to say, these are the things that we need to talk about, right? This is the value that we need to communicate.
And where is the product manager in the scenario? Because you say the quarterback is the so that product manager.
You want to be the quarterback, don't you?
Obviously, we like
you're the
CEO
coach.
of the product.
You're the
at the center, at the center of a Venn diagram. It's us.
Am I still here?
Yeah,
yes,
you're still
cool.
here.
I blinked. I would say you're the coach. You're the one giving us the strategy.
Okay.
Right. But you could also, if you wanted to change the narrative a little bit, you could say the quarterback is the product manager, and then you're passing things on, to your product marketer who's completing the play for you. So it still applies. I'm being the center of attention in this.
No, that's good. That's good. I like it. It's almost like it's like the analogy where people want to be always at the center.
Yeah,
so it's like, what is the most important role, it is played there. I truly like that. I truly like that. And so what do you think is misunderstood? So what would you say, like, for example, from what you read online, what is the biggest misunderstanding and you wish like people don't do?
This might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I don't see product marketing as marketing.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure I see it as product. It is part of product. It's an extension of product, but I think we need to see it as a strategic role, Just like we see
Hmm.
product managers as a strategic role, product marketing is a strategic role. And we execute that strategy through sales, through success, through marketing, through support. But for a very long time, I think it's been seen as a marketing role. And I think that does a disservice to any team that sees, oh, well, this is marketing role, because it's not a marketing role. It's a strategic role that, to me, probably sits a little bit closer to product than marketing, because you
Hmm.
need to be able to understand why those decisions are being made, what decisions are being made, for who those decisions are being made, what decisions are not being made, right? Because you need to be able to then communicate all of that. So to quote Saeed Khan, who said, I saw this in a thing we were working on together. The launch does not begin when the feature is done. The launch process actually begins when you make the decision to actually solve that problem. And that is where a product marketer needs to be from the beginning to answer all of those questions.
Yeah. So you need to include them like from the beginning, almost of ideation also,
Yeah,
not just I'm just thinking about this where, you're communicating also through customer interview, what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go. I'm even thinking about the business model where they should be involved,
yeah,
because it's the part of, which channel and how we're
absolutely.
gonna talk to people.
It's part of
Sure, the
the
target segment can be agreed, but
it's part of the product strategy, right? How you're
yeah.
going to market is part of that product strategy. So yeah, it's just a partner. It's a strategic partner to product. And then we're going to market in a variety of different ways. It could be sales led, it could be PLG, it could be, whatever it is. But yeah, I think the earlier product marketers can get involved, the better.
Yeah, I think there is still a lot of confusion about the different roles that we have in product teams, right?
Yeah.
Where everybody's trying to find their place. I have a feeling sometimes that everybody is like trying to take the cover. It's a bit like we're fighting for the same cover, when in reality, it's not the same cover at all. And I think this is what you're saying when you're saying, we're both working in that, but we have different roles.
It is different roles, but we should be able to work together and come to those conclusions. So again, when I work with product managers, I always tell them I'm here to make you look good, right? Or otherwise, I always say, see me as another product person that's here to help you, because that's
And
what
do
I
you think
am.
it's more a problem of people, or is it more a problem of culture, or is it more a problem of companies? Then when I say culture and companies, I know it's a bit similar, but
Um,
what,
I That's a really good question. I don't know if there's necessarily a source to it. I think we're all learning and growing as these roles become more defined, because people still struggle with understanding product management. So now you
yeah.
have this other role called product marketing that is, has a lot of overlap. And so that adds a little bit more confusion. So I don't think there's anyone necessarily to blame. I think that in different companies and different industries, both the product manager and the product marketer role are defined slightly different, and they're treated slightly different. So I think it's really just about also what the company needs, what their go-to-market strategies are. There are companies that are both PLG and sales motion. There are some that
Hmm.
are sales led. There are others that are purely PLG. So it also depends a lot on, what the company might need and how the product marketer can come along and help with that.
Okay. And you talked a lot about sales and this relation. How important it is for you?
Well, I guess again, it depends on the company that I'm working with, right? I still think sales is very, very important. Um, but it depends on the go-to-market strategy that the company has. So I think a better question might actually be, is marketing still needed if you have a product-led motion, which is a question that comes up a lot. So sales, I think sales is always going to be important, because especially as you're going up market, you're going to need that motion to come along. But there's this misconception that you suddenly don't need sales or don't need marketing when you have a product-led motion, and that is incorrect.
Yeah.
You still need, especially marketing. You need more marketing to help market within the product, within that ecosphere of the product. And like I said, as you're scaling, you're going to need those salespeople to come along and probably handhold a few customers a little bit more. And that doesn't mean that you're not product led. You're still product led, but it comes to the point where somebody's going to have to come in and go, hey, I see you're really getting the most out of this. Can I help you even more? Right? Tap into that a little bit more. So it is absolutely crucial and really important to not just drop those two and go, oh, well, we're PLG, so we don't need marketing or sales.
Yeah, I don't get that thing, like the discussion about that sales are not needed, because for me it's like I heard that lately in a meetup where they were saying, oh, because we have marketing, we don't need sales. And in my head it was like, how that it's almost impossible. You still need sales.
Yeah.
You still need sales to be able to do the thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, in a business what counts is selling or producing. That's the two entities. So you have to sit somewhere, wherever in sales or wherever in producing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I believe, I mean, I know that I don't believe that we don't need the sales, and I know that I don't believe that we need also, I know that I believe that we need marketing. Sorry, I almost made a mistake there. And for me, it's super important that you have both. You can't really eliminate it, even if you're PLG.
Yeah, even if you're PLG, like I said, at some point there's going to have to be some sort of account executive or salesperson or somebody that comes in. Even if it's a customer success person that's working on upgrades, that's still sales. It's internal sales, right? And go, hey, I see that you're really using the product. You've expanded a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Can we help you? Can we help you maximize, what you're making out of this? Can we upgrade you? Can we, whatever it is, to maximize that opportunity? And that still counts as a sale. You're selling internally. you're upgrading, you're expanding a contract, but that's still a type of sales. So yeah, I don't believe in, just because we're this, we drop everything else. I think there's a way that both can coexist. And you can maximize those opportunities. But yeah, it can be primarily product led, but you can still have the other motions going on.
And we talk a lot about product led. So if you had to define product led for people, or what it is not, as you prefer, what would you say to people?
I think the biggest misconception about product led growth. So there's product led and there's product growth. Two different things. Product led is an organization that is led through the product team and using the product to maximize the sales opportunities, right? TLDR, nobody come at me. Product-led growth is an extension of that, and it's a way to go to market. So you're going to market through the product itself. I think the biggest misconception is that you can bring in someone to manage product-led growth and they're going to be able to do everything. It doesn't happen that way.
And it has to be the product manager.
I mean, not always. But first of all, product-led growth is a business approach. So you can't just have one person come in and they're just going to manage everything. Not how it works. You need everybody in the business, like we were just talking about, sales, customer success, support, everybody to think in that way, right? Everybody is supporting the product-led motion. Everybody supports, those upgrades and that discovery, that journey for the user, with this product-led growth mindset in mind. But you don't just hire someone and go, great, they're going to manage everything, they're going to change everything. The whole team needs to be on board. The whole team, from leadership through to product, marketing, sales, success, support, everybody needs to be on board as to this new business approach. So I was recently working with a company where they're like, oh, well, so-and-so is going to take care of the product-led growth function. And I'm like, what? That doesn't sound right.
But it's because I think companies sees that as a project,
Yeah.
It's almost like seeing as a project, and someone has to take care of that. Obviously, since it's a strategy, you expect someone to be in charge of a strategy, because you have to have someone in charge of a strategy. But as you said, it can't be someone that is leading that and is like doing that for the rest of the company. You need everyone to find their place also inside that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that area that is sometimes forgotten.
Yeah.
Where it's like we just turn on like a switch and now we are product led.
Yeah, exactly.
And so let's come back to
the book.
This?
That guy.
The book. That guy. What is the book about?
So the book is essentially a bunch of frameworks that Dave and I have put together to
Hmm.
help with organizational alignment. And what that
Yeah.
means is ensuring that everyone from leadership to product to then everyone selling, right? Product marketing, sales, marketing, success, everyone aligned around some of the basic core things and assumptions that often go undiscussed.
Hmm.
So things like, who are we building things for? You would
Yeah.
think that everybody knows this, but I have worked with so many teams where I ask them who's our target audience, and they're like, I'm not quite sure. That is the first thing that needs to be clarified. Who are you building things for? Who is your audience? Who is your market? Um, and then on to kind of bringing that product strategy together and enhancing it and asking things like, what is actually valuable to the customers? How do we know what is valuable to the customers? What are those value assumptions? And what are the user behaviors that we can focus on to
Hmm.
create these repeatable actions that essentially then become valuable to the customer and result in growth? So I'm sure you know, and you have seen this, that when it comes to OKRs, sometimes they're a little bit muddy, and a lot of teams get OKRs like, hey, product team, your OKR is to increase ARR.
Yeah. I noticed this example
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
book. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
That is not a product
Nobody
objective.
knows what is
Nobody
OKR is
knows what
usually.
that, well, not even what is
Exactly.
an OKR, but that is not a product objective. That is a business objective,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Totally.
The product objective needs to focus around user behaviors that are going to then impact that business
Hmm.
objective directly. And that's what we call user behavior. So, what are the user behaviors? What are the things that you want your customers to engage with and do that then over time become valuable and repeatable and scalable? And then those things you take on to product marketing, and product marketing goes, okay, awesome. So these are the user behaviors we want people to employ. Hey, marketing team, sales team, whatever. This is the narrative that we need to talk about. These are the things
Yeah.
that we need to push. These are the things that we need to have through onboarding, through our sales funnel, through emails, through whatever we're doing, right? And that gives you the opportunity to create a really great narrative around what are your differentiators? What are you doing that is actually valuable? How do these things benefit the user? So now you have this alignment that starts from product, but actually stems out. And you
Hmm.
have less of that, oh, well, marketing did something that has nothing to do, or sales sold something that they weren't supposed to, because they're not really going to have the opportunity to do that. What you want to give them is the ammunition to talk about all the right things.
Yeah. And before we talk about the value creation plan,
Yeah.
which is what is around the book is around. I just want to talk about the usual symptoms that you put in the book because it's quite interesting because you say customers aren't receiving the feature they were promised during the sales process, sales cycle slowing down as competitors over functionality you don't have, customer service is constantly bombarded with a repetitive issue, challenging for leadership to see how and where the spending in product development is adding value and boosting business growth. So it's all the symptoms that you were talking about, and you're addressing also in the book with a
Mm-hmm.
with a value creation plan.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about value. What is misunderstood? Like what is value, or how it is misunderstood by people?
So that we actually address that in the book, and we say value is one of those really murky words.
Yeah.
So it has to be, first of all, value to the customer, right?
Yeah.
What is actually valuable to them? And a really great exercise that I've run before is asking, and we talk about this in the book as well, is asking what the value assumptions are to leadership, middle management, and also ask them to your customers. And usually, what happens in organizations that are suffering from these symptoms is the perceived value of that the product is bringing to customers, seen by leadership and the team, is very different than the value that people are seeing in the actual product. So I
Hmm.
worked with a company last year who are like, we are not XYZ. Like this, we are not this type of product. We are not doing this. And I'm like, but you do understand that this is what people are coming to you for, right? That is the value that they see in you. So what we should be doing is, instead of saying we are not this, is tap into it and say, yes, we enable you to do that. That is the entry point, but we are so much more, right? So tap into that value, but you have to also understand and see what is the value that people are actually looking for when they come to use your product, instead of trying to push something that they don't need.
And why people are seeing it like that? Like why they don't want to be that? Is it because it's
I mean, it could be a variety of things. It could be that, you know, you go to market, and let's say that you're trying to sell to coffee shops, and then you go, oh, but you know, now we have retailers coming through, but we're not for retailers, we're just for coffee shops. That can actually be okay because you're sticking to your product strategy. But you might also kind of switch and go, oh, well, now we're for retailers, but we're not for coffee shops. So that's when you need to make that decision and go, well, who are you actually serving? Who is your product for? What is the perception that people have when they come to you? Are they
Mhm.
perceiving it that it's for them specifically? If so, then maybe there's an opportunity to pivot, or there's an opportunity to tap into that need and then extend into more. And that's where product led growth, you know, comes through, is offer them the value that they're seeking, but then extend that value as they're interacting and they're engaging with your product. So there's a lot of decisions there that need to be made, but the first one is really who are you trying to sell to? What is the problem that they're having?
And you talk you talk also about alignment, and you talked a little bit about it because what triggers me is in my mind is the experience that I had, for example, in B2B context, where when the strategy is not clear, when we're not clear about who we are addressing, what is the value we're providing, suddenly B2B sales, people are looking to earn money
Mm-hmm.
through sales. And so they're trying to get someone in the market. And so you have even more misalignment inside the organization because we're trying to get different type of customer. We're going more into an opportunistic
Yep.
mindset than really a strategy. And so how do you ensure that this alignment comes into equation?
And this is the problem with having OKRs that are like increase ARR, because then everybody's going to try and do that whichever way they can. So that alignment begins with leadership first, and then going into product. And the number one thing that leadership and product need to know, which obviously then extends to the rest of the organization, is who the hell are we building things for? Number one, answer that. Who is this for? Right? And then what problems do they have? And what behaviors do we want to change?
Mm-hmm.
Those three things need to be answered, right? If those three things are not answered, especially the first two, right? Who and what problems, you're never going to be able to answer everything else. Like, why are we building this for them? Why is it actually important for them? You cannot talk about behaviors because you don't understand who is having those problems and what behaviors you want to change for whom. You cannot talk about experiences, especially through, you know, marketing and sales and a product-led motion, because you don't know who you're creating those experiences for. So this organizational alignment and preventing these problems, like having sales selling to, you know, a bunch of companies that, you know, don't really fit the ICP, is that lack of organizational alignment, and having very, very clear, this is who we sell to, this is our market, right? These are the things that we want to communicate. It doesn't necessarily mean that if somebody comes along they cannot use your product, and if it fits that, fantastic. But then you have to be really ruthless and clear about, if we have a different market now using our products and they start giving us feedback, do we suddenly shift to build things just for that market? That's when use cases become really important. So you may have 3-4 use cases that can be applied to various markets. And that's great, right? There is an overlap. But if you solely start focusing on building for different markets without understanding those overlapping use cases, that's when you have a product that just has a bunch of features that don't really interconnect.
And do you think it's because people don't want to change their strategy, or they're maybe attached too much to what they were building, or the direction they were having, or the idea, from the founder at the beginning?
It could be a mix of
Um,
things. I find generally this problem of like trying to do too much at the same time comes from a pressure to grow, especially when you're involved with VCs and board members, because what they want to see is results. They want to see money. They want to see constant growth. And so that's when things kind of start spiraling out of control, because you're like, oh, opportunity here, opportunity here. And it is a really tough position to be in. And sometimes, even though I say, we say in the book, don't do this, sometimes you will be in a position where you're like, just to survive, we're going to have to build this one feature for this one, for this one
client.
for this one client.
Even if we didn't expect to do just one version for this big client, we're going to do it because
you need that money to survive.
You need that money to survive.
Exactly.
Money is oxygen, right? It was my sales coach that was saying that.
It's a horrible position to be in, but as as your product is then growing and expanding, you need to take into consideration tech debt. Is what you build being used by other people? Is that customer still even, there? If they churned, why are you still collecting tech debt with this feature that's not being used? So these are the things that we have to think about over time. And I get having to make that decision. Sometimes it is necessary, but I think in retrospect, we also have to take the time to reflect after and go, what did we just do? Who else can use this? Can we actually market this? Does it fit our current use cases and market? Or a year from now, do we now have tech debt and we need to kill that feature because all it's doing is collecting dust and, a million bugs?
Yeah. But I like the fact, that in the book, you come back to putting it in context. Sometimes when we see, a sort of, I read a lot of books about product, and sometimes people are basically just selling a framework, right? And they just talk about the framework, that it works in every situation and everything. But I like that you put into context, the framework that you're talking about, which, like, with really good schema, if I can show it, if you authorize me.
Yeah, go for it.
For example, when you talk about OKRs,
yeah,
around the product vision that goes into product strategy around the product value creation plan. I find it quite great because you talked a lot about OKRs and misconception that there is around that and how it is applied. How do you see the value creation plan with the OKRs?
I think it brings together OKRs and the product strategy, and it answers those questions like who, value, assumptions, the big why, and it brings those things together. So it's not in any way replacing any of the tools that people are already using. It's enhancing.
Mm-hmm. And so I forgot to ask you before this one, what is a value creation plan? Because that will be before I say okay, like, how do you mean the OKR value creation plan? I need to, for people to understand the value creation plan.
No, it's a good question. So the value creation plan, or the VCP as we call it, is a set of templates that are designed to create that organizational alignment. So it touches everything from, exploring your audience. Who is your audience? Do you understand it? What are the value assumptions that you have? Why are you creating these things? Why are these things important to the customer? And over to my favorite one, which is the value pyramid, which essentially takes all of this information and then puts it in a pyramid that is just a really great visual way of understanding things and consolidating things, because there's like 7 templates. It's a lot of information to take on. But this pyramid just kind of puts it all together and covers, who's your target audience? What is their perception of value? What problems do they have? What opportunities do you have to solve those problems? What experiences are you creating? And what are the behaviors that you're changing? So if you ever then need to create a narrative around it, or sales need to reference, who they're selling to, that kind of encapsulates all the information that everybody needs.
And so what was your experience about writing this book?
Nightmare. Writing a book is hard. It is very, very difficult. It took about a little over a year, so like a year and 2 months, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
About 3 weeks, 3 weeks before the final version, we completely rewrote it.
Okay.
But it tore apart. I cried.
Okay.
I cried. I had a breakdown, and I was like, I cannot do this. Much like building a product, I had gotten attached to a certain version of the book that made sense to me because I was really close to it. But we received a ton of feedback, and it was necessary for us to break it apart, put it back together, reshuffle it. And I'm really, really lucky to have Dave in my corner, because he saw my breakdown and he was able to kind of help me digest a lot of it. So we both went in and out of the book at different times. So I think that was actually really good because each one of us could take a step back at different points in time, and come back into it with like a fresh mind. So yeah, we tore it down, we put it back together, and here's the final version.
That's great. And what is the since you talk about value, what is the value you wanna provide to people with this?
Really just the importance of being aligned. I wrote a post the other day where I'm like, product management is broken. We treat product managers as either project managers, or we're so hyper focused on strategy that we forget about some of those questions like who. And a lot of people comment and they're like, well, it's all down to leadership. And I'm like, yes, it is all down to leadership. So this is a book that was written for founders and leadership in mind, or anyone wanting to go into leadership, and just the importance of being aligned, and also just why you shouldn't be using your roadmap as a strategy. Your roadmap is not a
Mhm.
strategy. It is
Yeah, it's
not.
true. You said that, like, you're saying that, you're saying that somewhere. I don't
Yeah,
I don't remember where, but I saw that and I was like, yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Your roadmap is not your strategy. It's a way to align your team,
Mhm.
but that alignment needs to happen within leadership first of all. So yeah, that's we're hoping that this can help anyone in leadership, like I said, or founders, or anyone wanting to go into leadership or suffering from some of these problems, to have a way out of the product momentum gap.
Which is a good segue to the next. So, what is leadership for you?
Ooh, what is leadership? I'm gonna take a sip while I think about that. I think leadership is vulnerability. I think
Okay.
it's being in a position where you're saying, listen, I don't have all the answers, but I'm hiring all of you around me, right? My team, to be able to answer some of those things. And by being vulnerable and being open, that's how you create trust. And that's how you empower your team to be able to find those answers. I've worked with leaders that they thought they had the answers to everything. And when something went wrong, they blame somebody else, right? That's horrible. And I've worked with leaders that are like, listen, let's find out, right? Let's learn together. But I'm giving you the power to go learn those things. And I've been a lot more successful, and the teams around me have been a lot more successful in that manner, where leaders are like, okay, let's figure this out together. Let's learn together, without
Hmm.
mandating decisions or solutions, but rather being, you are empowered to go figure this out.
And so, how did you open yourself to leadership? When did that happen? I will say in your career, was it there from the beginning, or do you feel it was more?
No, it's
Um,
definitely something I've learned. Um, and I've learned it through those people that were vulnerable enough to teach me as well, and say, hey, I don't have all the answers, I'm not a know-it-all. Right? That's how you learn what true leadership looks like.
and what is for you, like, where I would say, where what is your strength that you apply to your leadership, your kind of superpower?
um my superpower, I am a very active listener. I like to listen a lot, and I then ask questions in return. So I'll take down a lot of notes and then I'll go, okay, great. Can you repeat this for me? Or can you tell me about this? I remember being in a meeting with a product team. Oh God, we had a discussion for like 2 hours. And then I said, okay, can someone summarize this for me? Because even I'm having a really hard time taking this on, and nobody could do it. And that's when I said,
Okay.
guys, we have a problem here, right? We are misaligned. We need to take a step back, break it down. And I could see just how confused and how lost the product team was. And we were able to kind of go back and distill each problem one by one. So I think my superpower is being able to listen, and also from a product marketing perspective, when I listen to other people talk, I get inspired, and people don't
Hmm.
realize a lot of the time that they are just giving so much information just by giving their thoughts. So I this is why I always like to include everybody, right? Everybody has ideas. I like to be very close to support, to customer success, to sales, because they have this firsthand experience and they have so much information that is often not shared to product teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say my superpower is listening to them and then going, okay, what can we do with all of this that we're learning? I wanted,
And is this part of a vulnerability?
yeah, absolutely. I think when I was younger, I used to think that I was the smartest person in the room and that I knew everything, right? Because we all think we know everything. I think now, in my better age, I'm not going to disclose how old I am. In my better age, I have learned that while I might be good at my job, I am better at my job when I'm working with other people and I'm relying on their knowledge and their expertise. So it's not really me saying I have imposter syndrome. It's me saying I am better at what I do when I work with others that are doing their thing and we can work collaboratively. And that is being vulnerable and saying, shit, I don't know everything. But if I work with people that know their stuff, then maybe we can come up with those solutions together. And it's always going to be better than me trying to come up with a solution on my own.
And I have this question because, as you know, I'm doing this podcast and this book because I believe there is a crisis in leadership
I
and also
agree.
product, but this is something different. Do you believe, you said yourself, like, product management is in crisis? Do you believe also leadership is in crisis?
I think product management is in crisis because of leadership.
Okay, can you elaborate on
I
this?
have a post coming up on that. But what I will
That's
say,
great. Sell us your post before it comes out, so
uh,
that way we put it in the links.
what I will say is, I mean, and we touched upon this on the book, right? For any product team to do their job right, they need the support from leadership. And I have seen wonderful product managers that really want to be able to implement change, but they don't have the support to do it. So they come off as being bad product managers, but they're really not. They just don't have that support from leadership or from the rest of their team. But in order to have the support from the rest of their team, it needs to come from above.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think leadership has a huge, tremendous effect on how product management works, especially if product managers are being treated as project managers, and they're not allowed to, run experiments and do discovery and talk to customers. That's so important. Or even just create an environment where there are team members that are able to support product management to do that, i.e., me. Right? So I am one of those team members that can help with market research, that can help with user research if necessary, right? I can help bring those insights to the product team. But if that support network is not created, then the product manager feels like they have all this work to do on their own. But product management is not a solo thing. It's a team sport.
Hmm.
And you have to be able to work with others to come up with those insights and those solutions. So yeah, I agree. I think it all stems from leadership and vulnerable leadership that inspires trust, that inspires empowerment, and within guardrails, right? Because you still need to provide guardrails for your teams, but within those guardrails to be able to provide that empowerment and that autonomy.
Do you think the community also in product has a responsibility inside that? That the fact that, the role is not understood, that sometimes it's pushed too much on one side.
Yeah, because leadership is part of those communities. I know that firsthand. You know that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I think anyone in the community that is in a leadership position has the responsibility to be part of that movement.
And what do you think is, let's be a bit controversial, what is the wrong thing in the community in this that contributes to that?
There was a post on Reddit about this, wasn't there? Where someone's like, I've just given up. Like, screw it. I'm just going to do whatever leadership tells me. I'm not going to bother anymore. And I get that, especially in this economy, right? And with all, all these people, myself included, who are looking for new opportunities, you don't want to be in a position where you're losing your job in the middle of a job crisis. So then you end up being on that end of the spectrum where you're like, I'm not going to argue. I'm just going to do what they want, deliver what they want, make them happy. It might not be what the customers want. It might just be that one feature that ends up being for that one sale opportunity that's going to make everybody happy, whatever. And that is where that toxicity comes from. It's not having that sense of security or psychological safety to even voice your opinions.
Yeah.
And leadership insisting that, oh yes, this one sale will just fix everything. Or as I recently heard from a CEO, the CEO actually said, well, all we need is feature parity with our competitors and then we'll be set. And I'm there thinking, oh my God,
the
no.
the famous thing.
And I'm just thinking, the famous thing. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, no, please don't do that.
I mean, there is nothing bad in doing that, but it's not a strategy. It's just
that's not a strategy.
Coping mechanism.
Exactly. It's a coping mechanism. That's not a strategy. So then you have engineers and you have product managers just doing things and building things. They're not inspired. They're not really doing their best work. They're just doing things because they don't have that psychological safety. And they're afraid of losing their jobs, which I totally get.
And so I will say that is the question from Julian, but I changed a little bit. What is the skills that are needed for you? Absolutely. For someone that want to do this role or, is interested by this role, what is the skills that they absolutely need?
For product marketing?
Yeah.
Product marketing is a very varied role, and the focus may change depending on the company, as I said earlier. So it could be a company that's very sales-led. It could be a company that's very product-led. And their responsibilities, they vary a little bit. But above all, I would say, much like product management, it's empathy. Empathy is one of those things that you can't really teach people. But it can be learned over time. You can grow it, you can foster it, but it does take a really long time. It's not like you go take a course and you're done. Right? It's like, oh no, I'm an empathetic person. But empathy is really important. And not just empathy for your customers, but empathy for yourself. And taking that time to reflect about what you're doing, who you're doing it for, learning, experimentation, trying things, learning from things. Because all of that is going to allow you to then create really great narratives, which is what we have to do, right? We have to sell the thing. But in order to sell the thing, you're going to do a much better job if you're able to create like a human-centered narrative that really speaks to what the customer is going through and what they need and how you can expand those opportunities. And you don't even really have to be a great copywriter. It's great if you are. But if you're able to create a messaging framework that is human-centered and focuses around those value points that are so important, your copywriters are going to be able to take that and do a really good job.
That's a great that's great skills that people should have, and it takes time, as you said.
It takes time.
It can't be rushed. Unfortunately, we're reaching the end.
Nice.
So I'm gonna have to ask you the three question that I asked everyone.
Okay.
What do you hope will be your legacy or lasting impact in leadership, product management, product marketing?
Hopefully this
in this
book.
digital world.
Hopefully this book.
I mean, you have a book already. That's yeah.
This guy. This guy. And hopefully any other books that we're already discussing other books that we might write. So hopefully we'll have the Product Momentum series. And that'll be it. But yeah, I think obviously the book is a big part of it. And also just changing the perception that product marketing is not just marketing. First of all, marketing people work really hard, so please have respect for them. There's no such thing as just in any position. Let's drop that. But also that it's a very strategic role and changing the perception a little bit about the value that it brings.
So my second question: any leaders that you follow, book, movie, TV show you recommend for the new leaders in the market? Except this one, we recommend this one, obviously.
We recommend this one.
I'm gonna honest. I'm gonna make it win. I decided to do that. I just decided that. Someone that share and comment when we put out with YouTube and everything. Like someone will receive it. So.
Oh, well, you know what? If somebody wants a copy, let me know. I'll send you a signed copy of this guy.
Great. We'll have a signed copy for people that comment. And
yeah, do it
even
now.
better.
There's actually a really good book that is not necessarily related to product management, but I really appreciated it. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And it was written by this chef in New York about how he turned his restaurant to be a 3-star Michelin restaurant. And they didn't do it by executing the best meals, which when you think about product is you're not necessarily executing the best features, but they did it by catering to the user journey, right? Catering to the needs, to the experience, essentially. And it's a fantastic book. And he talks about how, after they did this, they actually started a conference and they extended that to law firms and technology companies and anyone that wanted to learn from that process. So it's a really good book. I really recommend it.
Okay, we'll put it in the comment. Any movie or TV show? I love entertainment for this kind of thing. Is there one thing that you will say like you have to watch that?
Oh man, well I'm rewatching Charmed right now.
Charmed.
Yeah, because I finished with Buffy. So my best friend and I are like rewatching really good, like late 90s, 2000s shows. We've done Buffy. Highly recommend it. Please go watch it. We're now doing Charmed. I'm also rewatching The Walking Dead.
Interesting.
So I'm trying to rewatch shows that I feel really had an impact on me. Either emotionally or for whatever reason it was. And I'm trying to go back and think, what was it about that show that really stuck with me back then? So yeah, I don't have, you know what? Which was 2 shows that are new that are really, really good. One is called Bodies. It's on Netflix.
Okay, yeah.
Really blew my mind. It's wow, amazing. And the other one, which I know has been a bit controversial for anyone that's an Edgar Allan Poe fan, but The Fall of the House of Usher.
Okay.
I have that book somewhere here. I love that book, and I thought it was a really interesting modern take on Edgar Allan Poe and kind of bringing him back to mainstream for anyone that's a fan. I personally really enjoyed it. I know some people out there didn't, but I thought it was great. I thought it was a really nice modern take. Yeah.
Okay. And so my final question for emerging leaders in the digital product realm, what's one piece of advice you wish you'd receive earlier in your career?
You don't have to be right about everything. You really don't. Being wrong is actually a good thing. Embrace the times when you're wrong about something and take the time to reflect and learn, because that is actually what growth is about. Growth is not being right about everything. I would actually question, if you're right about everything, what are you actually learning? Probably not a whole lot.
That's true. Or you're not trying.
You're not trying hard enough.
You're not trying. That's the other thing. If you're not trying, you can't be wrong, obviously.
Yeah. And I'm not necessarily, I don't mean failure, because not everything needs to be a failure. Being wrong is not a failure. Just taking the opportunity to learn and go, okay, well, what can I learn from this experience? How can I make sure it doesn't repeat itself? Or if it does repeat itself, how can I make sure it doesn't happen again after that? Sometimes it takes a few tries, it's okay.
Sometimes just a few tries. Just before we finish, where can we follow you?
LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. I am on LinkedIn. I don't want to endorse that other one because I don't particularly agree with their support on certain things. But if you want to follow me there, I am there. I'm probably more active on LinkedIn nowadays, so you can find me there for sure. Okay.
And when we share as we said, like I know we have Muhammad that says we'll love a signed copy. When we share the YouTube episode, tag us, share us, and so that way we will do the copy and you will have it. product momentum gap. I read it. The value that I see also in there that you didn't talk about is I notice how much self-awareness you have about the market, both of you. Like, it's quite amazing. It's a true book. It's not, trying to embellish things, trying to say, oh yeah, things work that way and it's good. It's like, no,
thank you. I
this
appreciate
has a
that.
problem. This needs to be fixed. And also, this is something that you're going to encounter. So I quite like the kind of situation that you see in there. It's really practical and everything. As I said to you, like, I needed to find the example. There is examples on how to use the VCP. So really recommend for everyone that is in product. I think it's something that can be used, especially for alignment and for workshop. I will try certainly to use it in the future.
Amazing.
So thanks a lot, Andrea.
Well, thank
it was
you for
lovely to
inviting
have
me.
you.
Yeah, I appreciate
it. Follow us. Follow on YouTube. I will put the recording on YouTube, and follow both of us on LinkedIn or
that other place.
on the other place. And thanks for following us.
Thanks, everyone.